Good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review. I am DM Bloodworth, and as you can see by the graphics, today I'm going to be doing a box opening of Star Frontiers Nighthawks. This is a TSR game. As I said in my last video, which was Alpha Dawn, I was waiting to pick up this box set from eBay. Got it for under $40, so it was really cheap. Find for me to get this as cheaply as it was, and it actually showed up a day earlier, so that's even better. So what you see here on the screen is the layout of what the box contents is supposed to have, and so I'm going to open this up and hopefully it matches. Now this is supposed to be unpunched and supposed to be complete, so we shall find out. Usually when I say complete, that means without the dice and probably without the crayon. But unpunched is the key thing here. So here I have the box that came in plastic. I don't do my openings like I used to, where you'd actually see me opening up the shipping box because of COVID-19 and just safer to do it this way. I do that portion of it outside in the garage, and then I come in and wash up and make sure that everything is pretty clear. So here's the box, and as you can see, the exterior of the box looks pretty good. I'm going to open this up. This is my first time looking at it as well, so here I always like to take a look at the corners. I mean, there's a little bit of a depression here for something that's probably over, almost 36 or 37 years old. That's really not bad at all. So that's in pretty decent condition. So here we have the campaign book, and I will flip through and go through these, these as we go. So this is the first printing. So this is the first printing, March 1983. So, as I said, it's 37 years old. And this is written by Douglas Niles. And we will go through, and I'll do a flip through of the book itself. So far, looking pretty decent. This is the campaign book expanded rules. Once again, it looks like it's in pretty decent condition. And this is the first printing, March 83, second printing, November 83. So I would think that would make this potentially first or second. Well, this one's definitely first edition, first printing. I could see the only thing that someone had penciled in the TSR, and I noticed the same thing on one of the interiors. So a little bit of pencil writing, no big deal. Here's the Tactical Operations Manual, and this is the board game rules for the box set, and I will spend much more time on this as well. And then we have and I want to be really gentle with this. There we have the unpunched counters. Believe it or not, this adds a lot of value to a box if you're a collector, is that the fact that they are unpunched. And no, I won't be taking them out of that. So here we have a map and of the galaxy. Same one that's in Star Frontiers. And here we have a deck plan for a freighter. And the Warriors of White Light is an introductory adventure for Nighthawks. So this will incorporate everything that you have in Alpha Dawn and that kind of gameplay, and then it'll get into the combat of the strategic combat system as well. And then we have a large scale map, which, you know, looks fairly decent. No writing on it, and you know, obviously it was folded once, and it is double-sided. So here you have just an open space hexagon map where you could play out your battles as well. So really, really satisfied with the content so far. Going to very gently pick up those. Now, one way you can do this is that you can look on the internet for a paper version, you know, a printout version of this, where you can just print it out and then cut out the pieces. Or if you have if you don't want to handle the counters too much, you can place them once on your own copier and just make a copy of them. If you have heavy duty cardboard, you can cut these counters out yourself, and then you still have something that's usable for playing the game. I got it more for collection purposes, so I don't intend on removing the original counters anyway. I'm going to leave them there, and we'll take a quick look through the most interesting aspects of this. I think we'll spend some time with the expanded rules and the operational manual. Like I said, under $40, so I'm super, super happy with the price that I paid. So let's take a look. So this is really the different aspect of the game that is not directly related to Alpha Dawn. So this is the basic and advanced board game rules. And we go through. So there is the sequence of play. There is movement, combat. Then side B's turn goes. So then they do their movement, their combat, and so on. Movement is based on speed, acceleration, and deceleration. Turning is part of the movement. So you're using the hex map, and turn is a portion of the movement. And then they can continue moving on. So if a ship, it appears that this ship might have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, possibly 9 moves. And let's see if I calculated that out. Each ship has a maneuver rating. This number tells the player how many times the ship can turn during its move. All right, the bow front of the ship always must point in the one of the 6 sides of the hex ship is in. When the ship moves, it must move into the hex it is facing. A ship can turn either when it enters an X. A ship turns by rotating. All right, that's self-explanatory basically. If the number of hexes a ship moves is less than its MR, it still can turn only once per hex. So ships can only turn once per hex, and so on. So there are certain rules to, moving your ship, and facing plays a role in this. So it's not like, chess or checkers or anything like that. What direction your ship is facing in actually matters. It goes through, it talks about orbiting planets and the process of orbiting a planet. Talks about combat and how combat works. So A, if A were moving along here, so A would move 1, 2, 3, 4. It would have to move 4 spaces in order to engage with that ship, or vice versa. So that's the range. If it's firing weapons, so you see this based on, if it's firing a weapon from here to here, that is 5 hexes away in distance. So you would just calculate that instead of using a string, which you might see in other combat simulators, or straws I've also seen where you cut them to a certain measurement. Here you're just counting the number of hexes it would take to get there, which is in many ways, easier, I think. Your fields of fire, it has obviously going straight forward and then just 1 hex to either side. So that is its full range of forward fire is anything within those gaps. And they probably have an advantage of hitting something in its direct line of fire. It has various attack modifiers, evasive maneuvers, automatic hits and misses, firing rate, ship damage that takes place, the various weapon systems, along with their rate of fire and other categories. So here you have forward firing weapons. You have moving player only. Moving player only weapons can be fired only during the attack player's the combat phase. Range diffusion, the accuracy of RD weapons is reduced by 5% times the range to the target. Limited supply weapons are ones that can run out of ammo. Range, damage, the defensive systems of each ship. So you can already start to see there's a lot of detail in this here. There are various types of ships. So this is the United Planet Federation. Frigates, assault carriers, destroyers, heavy cruisers. And it gives a number of ships, and scenarios that you could run in order to learn the system in a very simple way. Then there are the advanced rules. So it takes what we just discussed there and adds some other layers of complexity to it. So advanced game movement, so gravity comes into play. So if you do have a planet here, it might take you longer to make a turn or such, or you might use a gravity to help slingshot you around, which I'm assuming is going to come into play. There's rules for moving off the map. There are new statistics for basic weapons. All right, so it's kind of updated or upgraded the weapon systems. Various different types of ships here. We have mine layers, we have mines, we have light cruisers, civilian versions of military spaceships. Advanced game ship information here. And we have examples of Sathar ships here, which is the major alien nemesis that you are going to face. So, and then the back of the book has your defenses, your combat tables, basically. And it talks about the combat, chances of hitting with the various types of weapons, and modifiers of it, damage table modifiers, weapon restrictions, and advanced game damage table. So where you actually hit and, increasing damage and such. So a 61 to 62, for an example, is a weapon system hit, LC, LB, PB, EB, AR, and RB, which are the various types of weapon systems that could take damage. So you'll check on the ship's stats to see where those points come from. Really very interesting. Looking forward to that. So here we have the campaign rules. And let's see, well, the campaign book expansion rules. So spaceship design is here. This is one of the early sections. So this might be so if you wanted to create your own spaceships. They give you the very basic hull configurations. So designing a ship, yeah. So they're going to, what you need to do in order to design your own ship, which is a really cool role playing aspect. As somebody who's played many RPGs, especially computer RPGs, anytime that you get to create your own spacecraft, that really brings that whole RPG aspect of the game to a new level. The first time that I encountered that in a computer game was it was an EA game called Earth and Beyond, and it was a phenomenal MMO, probably well ahead of its time as far as its graphics and its smoothness of play. And it was doing quite well, but I guess according to Electronic Arts, it wasn't doing well enough. And so out of the blue, they canceled it. But Earth and Beyond was a phenomenal game. And it really reminded me of Star Frontiers. So if there was a game out there, a computer game out there that really caught the same kind of feeling as Star Frontiers did, Earth and Beyond from EA Games was a great game out there. And now it's reminding me I should double check and see if I can find an emulator out there someplace and show you that game, because that game is phenomenal. And I'm sure even 20 years later, it still holds up, pretty well. So that's going to be my next project for this weekend, is to try to find an emulator that plays that game. I'm sure there is one. So you might see that video coming up very soon. So continuing flipping through, we have optional spaceship equipment and such. And obviously, the whole spaceship gameplay is going to come in with character skills that come into use as well. Now, one thing that I've done, and in the last time that I played Star Frontiers, is I devised it to be where each player in a group of 5 were manning a certain station on a ship. And so not only did they have their other regular skills that they were doing when they were off ship and on whether a station or a planet or something, but they also had their duties on the ship in running the various stations so that the ship could operate to its maximum ability in space, whether it be just an exploration or combat or such. And I kind of like that idea of having all of the player characters as a single ship crew. And then if you go that extra few yards there and have your players actually create their own starship and go on and perhaps they'll even do their own layout of what the deck plans are and such. It really becomes a great expansion of just role playing for Star Frontiers to begin with. So there's a tremendous amount of benefit if you are a fan of Star Frontiers Alpha Dawn, that you should certainly look to pick up Star Frontiers Nighthawks, because it does add that whole other element. You really can't play a space exploration game without having ships and ship combat and ship maintenance and manufacture and stuff also included in it. Just my opinion, but you won't be able to convince me otherwise. I think it's really an important part in any kind of a space-based or starship-based RPG out there. So once again, another oldie but a goodie, a game. I know recently someone said, "Really, you're doing a review on a game that's 30, almost 40 years old?" people are still playing these games. If you go to Facebook, you'll find old school TSR games community. Over 10,000 members in that one community dedicated specifically to old school TSR games. So there's no reason not to review these older games, because there are new players out there who have never played these things. There's new players out there that might not have ever heard of these games before. And there are just so many RPGs out there that you're constantly running into a game. Hey, I've never heard of that before. The last few interviews that I did, the first two interviews that I did, those two gentlemen introduced me to games I've never heard before. You know, The Belly of the Beast is one that just stuck out in my mind. That's something I want to take a look at. And as far as the hobby is concerned, the RPG hobby is so expansive that you can't possibly know every game system out there. You probably haven't played, you probably haven't played 60% of the games out there. And if you've played 40% of the games out there, you've played a whole lot. I've been playing for 40 years, and I don't think that I've probably even come close to 20% of the games that are out there. So there's just so many games out there that you could be looking into, and don't get hung up on the fact that a game is old. There isn't a reason why this wasn't expanded through time with multiple editions or something. Good games sometimes get left behind, and this is certainly one of those games that I think was deserving of a new edition. Now, some people could argue that Nebulon's Guide to the Frontier was an expansion or an extension of this of the Star Frontiers franchise, and it's kind of a quasi edition. It changes a lot of the rule systems and everything. I don't currently have it other than on PDF. If I ever do decide to actually get it, then I'll do a video for it. But I don't really have any plans on doing that, because I wasn't a huge fan. I think a lot of the changes that they made, other than just background source materials, the actual game mechanic changes were unnecessary in my opinion. And so, Alpha Dawn does just fine. The expansions with Nighthawks integrated into your Alpha Dawn characters works out just fine. You didn't need any of the additional clutter. And I don't mean that to sound so negative, but the additional layers, I'll say, for Zebulon's Guide, you don't really need that. But anyway, listen, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more of these videos coming up and you want those alerts, please subscribe and hit the alert notification so that you will get alerts when I put up new videos. And listen, take a look at these old games. They're really, really good games out there. And keep on hunting around for decent buys on on eBay or any other sites where you get your old and used games from. You can also get Star Frontiers from Wizards of the Coast through Drivethru RPG. I have a link on to Drivethru RPG in my at the end of all of my videos in the comments section, and so you can always click on there and then just type in a search for Star Frontiers, and you can get the print on demand for both box sets. And once again, another happy addition to my collection. So you all enjoy yourselves. Be safe out there. We're almost to a new weekend, so enjoy your weekend. I look forward to seeing you on the gaming screen sometime soon. You'll have a great afternoon.